Back with another episode of the Dirty Laundry Game Worn Hockey Podcast. Wade Hampton, Paul Rank joins us on this the last, I believe it is the official last regular season night of hockey. So if you're a hockey fan of teams like Wade, Paul, and myself who are ready to go golfing tomorrow, other teams are, the playoffs are all set. Now it's just a couple of them shake out of where the playoffs are. And I know all of us, even as collectors, enjoy the playoffs. How we doing, gentlemen?
Great.
Doing well. Hey, don't forget you got the flooded out game in Nashville tomorrow.
Oh yes, I forgot about it. Yeah, I forgot that whole deal, and it wasn't because of storms, because they busted pipes at the arena.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Nashville, a team that nobody thought would be doing worth a crap after all their moves they did.
Yeah, they got rid of guys and still made the playoffs, which is
and did much better than we thought. Some of the different things we wanted to touch on, of course, with the playoffs just around the corner. You see a lot of teams switch to playoff sets now. I know not every team does, at least in the early rounds of the playoffs. But like the St. Louis Blues, I don't know if the Sharks start at the beginning of the playoffs with a new set if they were playing this year.
They normally do start with the new set at the beginning.
And I've seen some of the teams, is the Red Wings and that carry their last set into the playoffs for a while.
Well,
there's a few teams that do.
That's also been a while, and the last most of the years in the past decade, when they have been in the playoffs, which isn't often, they'd have two sets: a regular season set one and a playoff set. And some players would switch to the playoff set before the playoffs started. Of course, it's not documented well, so you have to do it.
Of course not.
Well, the Blues have done it both ways. They've carried set three in to the first round, and then if they win the first round set, we'll go into a playoff set for the next round. I've seen them. They've done that in the past, correct, Doc?
Yeah. Now with the changes, at least the way that you and I think have seen with the Blues, like last year before the playoffs, the players got, because of the NHLPA contract, got that third set because we've not seen those show up in a hobby, and I think we confirmed it too with the team that the players got to keep the third set, and then they started with a playoff set that I don't know that we've seen anywhere that I'm aware of. It's hard to keep track of what's all been auctioned, and I track it, but I'd have to go.
Yeah, last year, any year that I think we've lost the first, like I said, I think usually that set three, they go into it really late, and that becomes the first playoff set. And so that's probably why we haven't seen those.
Round. That could be.
Yeah, and that's why we haven't seen those since the Cup run, really. I mean,
yeah, the Cup run, they ran the Winter Classic. They ran the set, and then Western Conference Finals, they had a set they used for that. And then, of course, when the Cup games, it was what, one per game, I believe?
Correct, yeah. And then in the bubble year, they went into new sets for the bubble. It was almost like they didn't want to take the jerseys into the bubble with them. So they started new sets when the bubble happened.
So I mean, that's the thing to watch out for with teams, and as I've talked about before, when I'm especially talking to newer collectors, I'm like, which one should I go for? I said, get the road whites. Every team get the road whites, because that's what they're wearing the most out of anything, with the reverse retros, the retros, all this other stuff. You look at like the Blues, have worn three different jersey designs for home, or four?
Four. They wore four, because they wore the one game retro, which is like the blue one behind you. They wore that one game. They wore the Heritage at home. Then they've worn the home jersey and then the reverse retro. So
you start looking at the number of games those jerseys have been worn. Even the regular set of homes isn't many.
No,
you want decent wear, and of course the puck marks show better on the whites. Yeah. If you want ones that have had good wear, there you go.
The only thing that was funny this year, if you remember early on in the season, I believe the Blues wore their home jerseys in Boston. Was it one time they wore them?
Yeah.
And it might have been another time, but I know they wore the home jerseys on the road at one point to work with reverse retro or an alternate jersey for the opposing club.
Now, Paul, does the Sharks, do they put out, like at the beginning of the season, the Blues have done this the last, I think, 3 years. They've actually announced especially with all the different jerseys of when they're going to be worn, and they even put the home and aways when they're going to be worn in there before. So it's a nice reference. I've gone back to confirm that, like Wade said, if they reversed a jersey or whatever, it was all documented on their site, which is nice. Does the Sharks do something like that?
Not nearly as nice. For example, for this year for the Verse Retro, they announced what dates they were going to wear those, and I think it was like 6 dates or 8 dates total. I can't remember, but it was a couple dates on the road too. It wasn't all at home, and they've done that in the past, like for the specialty, not the specialty jerseys, the non-home and away jerseys. They'll announce when they're going to wear them, like the stealth jerseys the year before. I think they did it for the Heritage. I can't recall, but it's not. We don't get the dates in advance, like when they're going to be wearing the away jerseys at home, which happens once or twice a year. Detroit will come out and only bring the red set because whatever reason.
Yeah.
The other team wants to wear Reverse Retro or its other jersey at home, and they work it out on the trip. But we don't find out about any of that until we show up at the game.
The one neat thing the Blues this year did was the barcodes in the jerseys, and then they're giving you the sheet that tells you what game they're used in. I mean, that's been a fantastic addition this season to, tracking what jersey because it tells you full game or like when it was worn. So I think that's it was a nice addition, and I think for other teams it'd be nice if they did that to help out their collectors as well.
And the only problem that we saw with that, though, is they just put those in this year. There's no regular set tag in a jersey. So 2 problems I see with this is, one, you don't know for sure. You have to go look up the barcode on their site, which you can do, or your certificate says it. But if that ever gets torn or taken off for any reason, you don't know.
As far as I know, it was just the home and away set 1 that didn't have it. I believe that, and I kind of asked some questions because I was a little disappointed with that as well, that they didn't have the Libby set tags in them from the equipment manager. But supposedly set 2 have them in them and everything moving forward. And I guess it was just a timing thing that they didn't get them in there. And plus the jerseys with the barcodes got worn for preseason. So I think the first sets home and away, and I think that added to, I think they just didn't get those set tags in there from the team.
Must have not got them in time, because usually, I mean, we've seen them with set tags sometimes in seasons past for even though they're dated for the home opener, they've worn them in the preseason. But
falls into my argument of telling those guys, like, go to Office Max and just get some kind of stamp, or you could have put something in there.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Wade, with the scanning for the Blues, if someone switches jerseys during a game, do they rescan it?
So the ones I've handled myself it just says full game on the sheet. Okay. So my assumption would be, like, we've had goalies in the past that were a jersey a period goalies. Like Chad Johnson was a guy who wore a jersey a period. There's been a couple other guys that have kind of slid through that were jersey a period guys. So my assumption would be, in those cases, the way that shows full game was they would probably scan in the jersey when they changed it. Or if a guy had a blood or a tear, I would assume that you would see some type of notation. Yet to see it, but I'm definitely looking for it. That's probably my best answer.
Because I'm kind of curious who's doing the scanning.
Yeah, my guess is the equipment guys.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Their job's not to track when it's worn. Theirs to get gear on the players.
That's a great question.
They got a busy job there.
Oh yeah.
That should be. But somebody's scanning them, so maybe that became something that got relegated to somebody. But I don't think the head equipment guy is doing that. But somebody, it must be scanning them at some point during that day or during that game time. So that's a great question to ask in the future.
Sorry, I had to say it. Another intern.
No, it's a great question.
Yeah, another intern.
Sorry.
Reference back to a very, very early show in this season.
So the Sharks have also added the barcode, and we still have, their pretty generic set tag in there. And we're not getting the nice printouts like the Blues are doing yet, but Amarak, or however you pronounce it, who's handling the game warrants, they have that information. And they've been sharing it with us. When the jerseys appear up at the kiosk, the game worn kiosk, the list will have what games they were worn, and
So-
sometimes broken down by periods for players like Carlson or Reimer.
Now, I would love to see the barcode that's in the Sharks jersey, because now that almost has me curious, or to see if any other NHL teams, if they all have the same barcode, and maybe that's something being implicated by the league. Because I mean, just now that 2 teams are doing it, maybe the Blues are just releasing more information. But if all the teams suddenly have that barcode in them, that'd be a pretty good indicator of a direction they're going with that league wide.
I'll get you copies of it. I'll take a photo after this, shoot it to you.
Oh, cool.
It is interesting. The Sharks now, when a jersey's not worn, they have a large "not game worn" sticker that they put on it, and
Really?
they have on a couple of cases to put it over a barcode.
Wow.
And in one case, it was on a hurdle, reverse retro, and they were able to photo match that to a game. And,
Of course they could.
yes.
So it got pulled, but it had already been used, and yeah, I mean, there's no foolproof answer to this, I don't think.
But if you can pick up a jersey, and I'm curious, if you know what they photo matched on it, if it was actual wear or just like sewing.
I thought it was the jersey had a little bit of wear, so
Okay,
I think
then-
it was
then-
on the wear. Not, I mean, yeah, I don't want to get into stitches and
Sure.
get a photo
Yeah,
match.
that's always the fun one. But it raises questions of, okay, if the people are tagging it not worn, and if the wear is obvious, then don't you stop and go, well, wait a minute.
That's why it sold pretty quickly at the.
No, somebody with sharp
it's
eyes
fine.
realized, wait a minute, I'm going to pay less money, and somebody's not.
What was the price difference between a worn one and say that one that was marked not worn? I mean, what kind of difference are you talking? I'm just curious.
About $700. The
Big difference.
game issued was $500, and I think the hurdle reverse retros were about $1,200, maybe $1,100.
Very, very fair price.
Yeah, they
And then when you go out and match it and go, surprise, it says it's not game worn, but here you go.
Oopsie.
Exactly.
That's why you research every jersey you get, and you go over it with a fine-tooth comb, because the number of people that have bought issued jerseys, and they start looking and say, oh, wait, well, this has a mark here, there's this here, and go find those pictures. Teams are not perfect, never perfect, never gonna be. It's how it is. It's a business to them. They're not going over it with a fine tooth comb like we are. If the equipment guys say, nope, this one was issued, that's what the salespeople are going to take as
Yeah.
their word.
They're not hobby oriented the same way we are.
Yeah, just be careful when you're matching a non-game worn jersey, especially if it's through threads or something. Too many people try to turn stuff like that into gold, and it's
Right.
sometimes your eyes fool you on that.
Absolutely.
We just did one the other day, had one in the Blues game worn page. A gentleman posted a clown style Blues jersey wearing had a particular name on it. He thought it had been recycled from Ian LePerriere. He posted pictures up online. It kind of looked that way. I had him send me some more. A couple other guys were looking at it. I said, shoot me a picture of where the nameplate was, because we know that LePerriere's was bigger. Sure as hell, you can see a longer nameplate was there. You can see like the leftover, like the stitching imprint from there. And we did some looking for photos and found a nice mark across the number. And he was traded mid-season, and the guy who took that jersey over wanted to go back to 22. He was wearing 6, and
So
it was an easy match, really.
Was that
I-
on our blue? Was that on the page itself, or did that
on the
was it
Blues
just a-
collectors. I stayed out of that conversation, and I really wish it was not recycled, because as a Roberts jersey, I was very interested. He was a U of M kid.
Mhm.
And it's just like, once I saw that, the price was a lot more because it wasn't just his,
Sure.
logically. But
But
yeah.
a lot of teams did that at that point, unfortunately. Is the player, oh yeah, I'd rather have his number. Okay, that's mid-set. Yeah, we're not going to make you a new one. Just, we don't care. We'll put a new nameplate on it. And that's one of the first things I went for, is knowing that LePerriere was definitely a longer name. It was almost, okay, yes, we can say definitely this is what it was, and then found several marks that lined up with a picture of LePerriere wearing it.
How did I miss that post?
It was in the last few days. I know you've been busy with things, so
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
a beautiful jersey. But again, don't even in some of the modern stuff, don't always take the word for the team or whoever sells it to you. If some questions like that come up, ask other people. We all have fun photo matching this stuff.
Yeah,
And
you guys love it.
as old of a jersey as that was, I found the matches, most of them on Getty. The interesting piece is when I initially searched for the date range, I didn't find the pictures that I used to match it. I went to Google
Yeah.
Images, typed in Ian LaPerriere and put the year in, and Getty what came up in the picture finds, and it was just a random one. It was just dated 1995. It didn't actually have a date, so it didn't flag the same way for like a date search in Getty. So if you don't always find it, try a Google image search because it will hit Getty's pictures as well. So I was stumbled across it. It was a perfectly clear front shot with a nice mark across one of the twos, and I had him send me some more pictures to verify it. And again, I'm not writing a COA, but in my humble opinion, it's solid with the nameplate change obviously there and a couple marks. Like, yeah, I'd say it's almost for certain, and seeing a number change for Robert. So, but it's the fun part of the hobby.
Yeah. That's it's interesting.
Some of the other, I guess, just things were as we wrap up the season and teams like ours who again are golfing, their equipment sales will be starting sooner than later. You usually see them once the teams are out of the playoffs. I have a feeling ours hopefully will be soon. I hate waiting. Paul
waiting outside.
I know you're always kind of involved with shooting pictures and stuff at the shark sale. Do you think do they usually stick around the same date every year, or is it fluctuate again with what the team's done?
It's based on availability of SAP.
Okay.
The original plan I heard years ago was once we had Tech CU where the Barracuda play, opened up, they were going to want to do the equipment sale there because all the practice facilities there, and they could just wheel stuff out. But now that they've gone to Amarak to take over the Game Worn program, it sounds like it's going to stay at SAP and not go to Tech CU. So you got to work around arena football, couple concerts, and whatever. My guess is sometime in May.
So not long either.
Not long either. Yeah, it's for mid-April now. Wow.
And for the newer people that are trying to find out when their team's doing theirs, get on the team's social media, get on whatever the Game Worn page is for your team, because everybody shares it out. Join the email lists, because I know that's how the Blues send it between their social media and email, and of course we all hear about it through the grapevine too, some way or another. But and not every team has Game Worn jerseys at theirs. I know the Sharks always have a ton. A lot of other teams, Carolina's a big one. The Blues vary, I think, year to year, as you and I know, Wade. And some teams have kind of done theirs. I saw a couple weeks ago and I think they'll do a bigger one, but the Buffalo Sabres dumped a bunch of stuff in one of their stores, gloves, sticks. May have done some jerseys, but I think they were more practice jerseys. But sometimes teams seem to kind of just throw stuff out there small.
The big one's going to be 2 years from now.
Yeah. Yep.
It's going to get wild. Yeah. It's going to get wild.
For anybody that doesn't know what we're referring to there is after next season when Adidas goes away and Fanatics, which I'll mention here in a second too on a side note with that, when Fanatics takes over, and I think most teams did that. Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, for the Sharks, when the year between the Reebok and the Adidas switch, when we went to the equipment sales, we had Gaylord boxes full of practice jerseys and old player jerseys for $25 and $50.
Sneakers, everything, anything.
All that Reebok stuff, we don't want that name around anywhere.
Yeah. It wasn't like that in San Jose. We did have a lot of blank jerseys and stuff, just lying around, but nothing like older player jerseys. Besides maybe a few here and there, which I don't really recall. But I mean, the Sharks do a really good job of clearing everything out each year at the equipment sale. And, they don't hold too much back. I mean, I will say this year's sale has to be a little bit smaller because they've already sold the reverse retros. They've sold jerseys a lot of the jerseys from the Marlowe game. and most of the set one jerseys, whether through the kiosk or on the online auctions. So.
Now,
How
go
do you not,
ahead, Wade.
oh, do you like the kiosk thing as far as, I mean, because that kind of makes it a crapshoot on whether or not you're going to the game unless you're a season ticket holder. I mean, how do you prefer that?
Well, season ticket holders do get in 15 minutes early, so that helps us. The problem, the way the Sharks are doing the kiosk, in my opinion, they are bringing out 10 to 15 jerseys each game. So it's and some people want one of a style, but they don't have the player they want, but they're still forced into getting one, not knowing if that player is going to come available. It's nice to be able to go to the game and get a jersey. I don't know. I'd rather have it all at the end of the season sale and just hit it at once and just worry about going to the game and having fun and having a beer and not worried about picking up jerseys either for us or for friends.
Makes sense.
And the Blues have been back and forth with that, Wade. I mean, you were there at the beginning of the season, the home opener. They had a bunch of randos on the rack of guys that were gone or preseason or whatnot.
Yeah.
And they ran them for the first couple games, and then they disappeared. And maybe they'd show up at another game, and then of course they put them on their online portal or they put them in the auction. And there's no rhyme or reason.
No, they were clearing out a lot. Anything that wasn't prime green, I think, is what happened. They got rid of the preseason stuff, and then the guys that didn't get signed, and it just kind of was an interesting thing. I'm all for it. I think it always adds some excitement. Obviously, if they price them right, they go, and there's always going to be a grab. A neat. There's going to be a grab or like a gem to grab out of there. Just recently they did one a couple weeks ago, and I like James Neal, and I got a home and away James Neal. One was issued and one's worn, and
it's the real deal.
Yeah. But it was just one that, like, he wasn't a blue long, and I didn't really get a good chance of getting some of his stuff when he was here. So, those were kind of like cheap, fun ads that, they end up in the collection. So I think it's neat when they do it. It is frustrating when you're at home and you hear, or like for you, Doc, because you live out of the area a little bit, you're sitting at home and all of a sudden you're like, oh, they got jerseys out, or, new sticks. And you're like, but I think in defense of that, I think they're trying to add excitement and keep people on their toes, and that's fun. I and you can't have everything, and there's plenty of other
Where
people.
Can I afford to?
Yeah, no kidding. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. And going back to the mentioned Fanatics here too, I don't know if you guys had seen it in a couple articles. Not that it matters to us as much, only because we're going for the game worn piece and we still have some worries for there. Is one of the articles that came out about 4 or 5 days after the announcement, is one of the people involved in it made indications that they'll be selling made in Canada authentics. And that's been the real big bitch with Adidas not be able to get the mix or made in Canada's unless you go to an equipment sale or the teams put them online, or you get one of the third-party people that have bought stock from the team. It's still unclear because the wording was, yes, we're doing authentics from our place in Canada, the same place the player jerseys are being made, but there was no discussion in the article of if the quality will be different. I would think not, but a lot of the groups I'm in for authentics and that are post about it, a lot of people have concerns of the cost going up even more. Because I mean, hell, the authentics you're paying for now are what, $250, $300?
Yeah.
Is Fanatics going to jack that price up for the made in Canada ones?
Well,
so you could go buy it and get it lettered to whatever player you want instead of stripping.
So the only thing I can harpen back to is just my time in the hobby with like baseball stuff was when Majestic was doing before. And if you don't know the history of that, Majestic did the Major League Baseball jerseys, and then basically the Nike Major League Baseball jerseys are Majestic stuff. They just changed the tagging when Fanatics bought Majestic, and then their partnership with Nike. Long story short, the one thing you always had to look at on those was if it was like a 52 code, or there was just different codes, like 52 meant it was like a one designated for the team. So the question will be how long it takes people to figure out whether or not they're the exact same, if they're coded differently. It won't take long for people to determine whether or not they're the exact same.
Yeah, that'll get leaked out from the manufacturer real quick.
Oh, it'll take a day. As soon as people get their hands on both of them, they'll figure it out.
Right. And I know we don't deal in authentics. We're on the game worn side, but I thought that article was very interesting, and it's one of the guys that works for Fanatics/SP now.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting conversation.
The next question is, how much is SP going to be able to produce? I mean, what's that going to do to quality for the gamers? I mean, suddenly if rather than just producing for the NHL franchises, which I don't know if everybody understands the fact that like the teams buy the jerseys from that manufacturer. So those Adidas jerseys that show up at the Blues are purchased. That's how the money works on that. So then suddenly if they happen to produce hundreds or thousands more across the NHL, what's that going to do? Do they have the capabilities of doing that? And then what's that do to the material quality? There's a lot of questions there.
And with them knowing they have the contract, maybe it's okay. There's already discussions with the NHL and the teams is the first year of Fanatics. It's home and aways. We're not changing anything. Here's the logos. This is what it is. So they can get a start now. They start producing those ahead as long as the material's been approved by the league or however that's going to work, but they should be able to get a jump start on that. And I assume they have a good plan in place, but yeah, it's an interesting discussion. And it's really going to be as we get closer and as we actually get into them years down the road, and we'll still be doing this podcast for sure. We'll cover it again.
World famous.
Yes. So again, I just want to touch on that because I'd seen that pop up and thought it was a very interesting conversation because there are a lot of collectors or fans out there of the made in Canada jerseys, and they can send them off to get them made for whatever player they want.
Instead of stripping gamers and gamers.
Yeah, hopefully it will tamp down on some of that too.
Agree.
Trying to think some of the other things to touch on. There are a couple different expos been announced coming up. Paul, you're making a long visit. I want to know how many jerseys you're packing to go.
I don't want to answer that. So, yeah.
And I didn't realize this one existed. I think I saw kind of a quick post somewhere and just forgot about it. But where are you headed?
The end of August, we're going to have an expo in Dusseldorf, Germany. And Monica and I will head over for that. We've gone to the last two there, both pre-COVID, and just absolutely incredible time. And,
who is it that heads that one up?
Stefan Perel.
Okay.
Yeah. So he'll be, I have the date somewhere. I'm sorry, I don't have it available.
That's all right. I can add it in when I do some of the text afterwards. So that's a cool one. And hey, I mean, you've got some time to plan if you want to go visit Germany. If you're a collector, hey, I mean, that's a way to make some cool connections.
Yeah.
Because I know there's NHL jerseys scattered all over the world.
And there should be preseason hockey games there then. And the soccer leagues will be started already. So it's a lot of other sports-related stuff to do other than just seeing a lot of incredible jerseys.
September 30th, we've got the South Jersey Game Worn Expo going on. That's a good one to plan out to go to. Of course, in the Midwest. And what's the dates for yours in October?
October 21st and 22nd?
That's you should know. You're organizing. Gonna be in.
I try not to let. I got so much going on. I haven't really done a lot with it yet. I mean,
it's only April, but I just like teasing it as things are coming up.
It's coming. I'm thinking about doing a couple things. I'm trying to get with some people about maybe having a signer or two this year. Just one of the local blues guys, probably a charity thing. Something like that to keep pushing it forward. Last year we got a little hurt because it was like the nicest weekend weather-wise that we'd had in a long time. But it's a great event. People seem to like it. That's why I keep doing it, despite losing all my hair from it and other things. But it's going to be fun in Collinsville, which is right across the river from St. Louis. Hoping the Blues are playing. Like as soon as we get a schedule, it'd be great if they're in town, so we could maybe get some kind of thing.
Oh
thing
yeah.
with the Blues. So
there'll be, in case you missed it too from the other day, there'll be, I think, some jerseys fought over, even not by just the fans of the two teams, but announced for the NHL Global Series in Melbourne, Australia.
Really?
September 1st of next year.
Who are the teams?
Coyotes.
Who?
Kings and Coyotes.
Really? That's actually really cool. I mean, that's
But I saw some other posts. I need to go digging for it. Supposedly, there's Arizona had a preseason game scheduled at an alternate site somewhere else, right, like a day or two before or after this. So there's concerns that might be canceled. I know some fans were kind of pissed about it.
I mean, that's I mean, I don't know the exact details of it, but I know that getting to Australia is a tremendous travel. Like that's
The
a lot of
teams have
travel.
private jets. It's easy. Not like us trying to go there. We hop 6 planes and end up there eventually.
Yeah, I guess, but still,
They'll
I
be
guess
playing preseason games for the 2023 NHL Global Series September 23rd and 24th inside the
That's cool.
Rob Laver Arena, home of the Australian Open tennis tournament, on a rink the NHL will build.
Wow, imagine the logistics of getting all the stuff there to build a rink and all that too.
Yep, they use the stuff that they use for the Winter Classic. So I mean, you talk about getting planes there. I mean, that's a cargo plane going for all that crap.
Well, yeah, it's a lot, and then just the people. I mean, there's how many people does it take to put that thing together? And
oh yeah,
the logistics of that are incredible.
But can you imagine the jersey sales for that with the Melbourne patch and Global Series patch and that? Those will be popular.
Wild.
Yeah,
even though it's the Coyotes.
The only disappointment is that it's preseason and not regular season. So, and the one game you might be thinking of is the Kings and the Sharks are scheduled to play in Salt Lake City in a preseason match. And
so
I don't know if
that might be what it was.
I don't know if that's in jeopardy now. I haven't paid any attention to.
Well, you follow the Sharks, so
yeah,
be interesting.
Yes.
Very cool.
So it's neat to see. I mean, we all like the specialty jerseys and different patches and things like that, and so it's always fun to watch pricing. I will say though, and Paul, I don't know if you're seeing it much with any of the either how the Sharks are pricing things or some of the auction, but prices are down. Selling prices especially on the auction side of things, are down anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be kind of saturated right now. It's the big test for me coming up is the Minnesota Wild reverse retro auction. They have their set 2s up for auction on their I forget what Handy Bid, I think, site. When you get a chance, take a look at it. It has wear descriptions, and everything is just like loose thread here, loose pull thread there. Not it's.
We need to reach out to them and say nobody gives a damn about the threads. If there's puck marks, stick marks, this kind of thing.
But that's the problem is stuff's getting used so sparingly.
Yeah.
Like, it's so hard to find anything with really exceptional wear, it seems like, anymore. And that comes back to another thing too, is the quality of the materials, I think, have continued to grow and change. I think, when you start talking about them, the manufacturers doing research, just like everything else when it comes to athletic sneakers or skates or sticks, I think that they've continued to increase the quality of it. They're designed to not tear up as much.
Very true. Agreed.
Yeah, and I think the prime green shows a little bit more wear than the previous material did. Some more tears too, because I see a lot more repairs and not just the blues across the league.
It's thinner. It is really, from what I mean, not terribly noticeably thinner, but I feel like a softer, thinner, like the weave, and it's probably because of the material that's used, but it doesn't feel as heavy, I guess, is the best way to put it. I don't know if you guys know what I'm kind of talking about there, but
yeah,
I mean, I do think it's slightly lighter too. It's just packing up jerseys. 2 pounds is the magic number when shipping in the U.S. and shipping a lot of prime green runs. Prime green, I hit under 2 pounds on them, which I don't always with the other Adidas. So
it's a good tell. Good tell. So
some other things you have going on, classic auctions going on right now. There's some big names, some interesting ones in there. Wade and I were talking about. There's a Tony Twist out there with extremely light wear, but as him and I kind of conversed, and again, we don't have no good documentation, but guys like him went through multiple jerseys a game and backups and all that. So not surprising to see.
There's a really cool Grant Fuhr in that auction for the Blues. It's the It's the later style, because most everything you see on him is clown style. So that's pretty interesting just to see the end of the road Grant Fuhrer. Kind of curious to see what that one does. And then the Dino Cicerelli collection is pretty cool. There's some neat stuff in that. Not necessarily my segment of collecting, but I saw like a really cool all-star jersey and some other stuff. There's some really pretty incredible stuff in that auction. They really did hit a home run there.
It's again, we talk about jersey history so much and names that even if you're not a fan of a particular player or a team, seeing some of those things pop up either at an expo or in auctions like that and be able to look at it up close and see all these different wear, it's cool for that old school connection.
Oh yeah, I was just at the Nova, and not a Capitals collector, but I've always been just a huge fan of their older stuff and some of the stuff. And God, there's some incredible collections there, and like people with just Dale Hunters and Scott Stevens and Bondras and all the Ovies, and just some of that stuff was just like, wow, and then the stuff Mygray brought was incredible. The Gretzky blues to me was one of those things that like kind of never really thought I'd ever touch myself, a Gretzky game worn blues, but that's an incredible piece. And it's, I think beyond what you collect in this hobby, I think one of the cool things is being a fan of the stuff. Paul was talking about some of the Shark stuff, and I don't collect Shark stuff, but man, they have some incredible jerseys, and if I were deeper pockets, I'd probably start grabbing up more of that stuff. I'm sitting here watching the Blues game, and the first thing that I noticed was the Stars are wearing that black and neon green jersey.
Oh, those are so cool.
I looked at that thing and I'm like, not something I need to own, but pardon my mouth, but holy shit. How great of a jersey is that?
Well, and you've got the Springfield Falcons or Springfield Thunderbirds, excuse me, that behind you. Their Simpsons one that they did in that. Yeah. And that, I would love to see the NHL do that in an upcoming season where everybody wears that color scheme in whatever logo. Because when the Dallas first put it out and announced they were doing it, I was like, ooh, that's pretty cool. And then seeing it the full set with the socks, the pants, the gloves, and the helmets, holy hell, that was so sharp.
How cool would it be if and this is just as a Blues fan, an all black Blues jersey with just yellow. Like that neon yellow, you know what I'm saying? That bright yellow.
I'd be for that.
Or even like a navy blue, like a dark navy blue with just the yellow. That would be just sick. People would go absolutely crazy for something like that.
Oh, sure. And you talk about other teams' jerseys. I'm lucky enough to thanks to Paul's help, getting a Sharks jersey for one of the junior Blues players that used to play here in town. And that thing is so sharp. Was it the blackout? Is that what that was called? Or is it
that was the stealth?
Okay. And
those are beautiful.
Oh yeah. And when Paul, when you described it with the mid arms, that design, and it sent a picture, you kind of see it, but getting it in front of you was like, holy crap. It's so intricate and just gorgeous.
Yeah. It's supposed to be like a circuit board there.
I love it.
It spells out Sharks. I can't remember, or
really?
Yeah, I can't remember what it spells out. But
right now it spells out golfing, but that.
Yes.
The Sharks have always had some really incredible stuff.
I wish more teams would jump out there a little bit in some of the future retros or thirds or something else, because that thing's cool. It's fun. Maybe if the Blues did a similar mid-arm thing where it's little tiny musical notes or arches or something, do something fun like that. And each team, you know what, if it's like whatever the big thing is in your Seattle, Space Needle, Chicago, Guns, whatever it is, but do something like that. See, like the Willis Tower, something that the city's known for, in really subtle in there. Yeah, because when Vegas came out with theirs, and you get the jerseys that really subtle, the gold and some of that design in there, it's just so cool. People would go nuts for those.
Well, the Vegas just did the ones that like glow in the dark. That's like. That's awesome. Come on, how could you not don't have to be a Vegas fan to be like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. We like cool looking jerseys. It doesn't have to be our team. Yeah, we're not going to root for the players if we're playing in them, but you can respect the design and love or even want one of those.
Well, and I think, and that's one of the things that people haven't been talking about this whole Fanatics thing. If you really look at, in Fanatics is like kind of a phantom partner with Nike and what they do with all the baseball jerseys and all those different style ones. Same thing with the NBA. I mean, the NBA wears like so many different cool styles. I mean, like I'm not a big NBA guy, but they have like those guys, they're wearing different jerseys, every third night. I don't think that'll happen with hockey, but if that same brain trust at Fanatics gets with this whole thing, I think you could see some really, really interesting outside the box changes in that, because that's what Fanatics has done with their other stuff. Because at the end of the day, they want to sell as many jerseys and as many hats and as many whatever as possible. So, I mean, that could be a little bit of the wave of the future in the NHL with this new deal.
We don't want to see wear go down, because we all, I mean, when we're fighting for, okay, is this a puck mark or what this is? It's because with some of those jerseys, I mean, a 1-game jerseys, you're just not going to find much. And we don't want to wash that out too much, but let's get creative. The NHL other than the last couple of years with some of this stuff, has been so dry and wanting to stay away from that. Let's have some fun, because of the ranked, like actual sports, NBA, NFL, even MLS, we're at the bottom.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. And people aren't talking about the fact that that's one of the reasons that Nike didn't even bid the contract for the NHL. At the end of the day, it's like an $80 million thing. Well, they like Nike makes $120 million on like Manchester United by itself. So the whole NHL didn't really hit the value box. And it's not because it can't. I think it's because they haven't. And I think that Fanatics got into it, and I think they're the kind of company that will be a driving force towards, hey, we need to make some more money on merchandise, and the way to do that is let's get creative.
So one thing on that, which I really don't know why it is this way, but a lot of the teams have really cool warm-up jerseys for specialty nights, but they're not allowed to wear them in games, unlike in the AHL and the other leagues where they do. So I don't know if that will be a factor moving forward if they want to try. I don't know what the jersey approval process is from the NHL, what they're allowing on the ice, what they aren't. I don't know.
I think that's in the, I know it's not in the NHLPA contract, because that's different, but I know there's league rules somewhere for that. And I thought they were public, but maybe they aren't.
I don't know. They are. That they have to be like. I do think, and I again, don't quote me on this, but I do think that the jerseys that they wear have to be submitted to, the NHL for discretion. Sorry, my computer's.
You're fine. And I know even like some of where you have, if you have a death with something involved in a team, or where you need to wear a patch, sometimes the NHL has gotten very sticky on when they can put those on, or when they go on. I remember what it was is team asked to do a particular thing, and NHL told them no, because it was outside of a standard, or they didn't get enough notice. I'm sorry. Some of that crap needs to go. You don't want to just throw crap out all the time, but come on, let's market this more.
I'm not a Blackhawks fan, but I'm still a little disappointed, and not to get political, or personal, but the whole thing with, like, they didn't do anything for Bobby Hall. They didn't put a 16 on any of their, or 9 on any of their jerseys, or do anything crazy. Like, to me, not to get into his personal stuff, but that was kind of crazy to me that they didn't do anything for him.
Didn't they put his number on the ice?
I think they ended up doing that, but like the team decided not to really do any kind of anything beyond that.
Jersey or helmets
helmet or anything, which was odd to me. But I think they had a lot of kickback because of some of his personal life choices. But nonetheless, he's still one of the franchise's most notable icons.
Let's stick with the Hawks too for a minute. The announcement that came out this morning, which pissed a lot of my friends who were Hawks fans off, who couldn't be up there for the game, of Jonathan Toews last game as a Hawk. I'm talked to a few people, again, nobody in the Hawks organization, but fans and stuff that pay attention. They're not sure if he'll ever step on the ice again with his health issues the last few years.
It was a weird announcement because, like, the first part of the announcement from the Hawks read about, like, no longer for, that he's not coming back to the Hawks, but it didn't say he was quote unquote like done playing hockey. But, if anything, it's a weird thing to me because it'll really tarnish his legacy if it ended up being a thing where he just basically told him, hey, listen, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I'm surely not doing it for you in a rebuild.
Now, and the Hawks, that was kind of rumored the Hawks weren't going to sign him either. But the game worn side of this is okay, how many jerseys is he wearing tonight?
I would say probably at least, you'd have to, that would be one of those things. Remember at the end when Gretzky was like, literally they were stripping him, like he'd get to the bench between shifts and they were like taking the clothes off the poor guy. Like the last couple of weeks of his time in New York. It'll be interesting to see if they're half stripping Tays between shifts.
Yeah, every time he comes off, the camera put it on the bench. Oh, his shirt's off again. There we go.
I mean, if you remember when Gretzky, that's literally what they were doing to him in New York.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they were like literally tearing a jersey off of him between shifts and like giving him new gloves and new sticks. I mean, it was crazy. So
a prime example. And just the last week, and you picked it up for me. Thank you. Rookie Erik Johnson jersey, home jersey.
Yeah.
When the Blues sold it, so there was no tagging on the jersey at all. But I'm like, okay, at the price, I'm going to take a chance because it's. I had it away one anyway. Might as well get matching colors. We get it, and in the fight strap, it's written a particular date with the equipment manager's signature and a number 3 in it. Found out he wore it that game in the third period. But they were same thing. It's because he was a number 1 draft pick rookie year. Yeah. He was putting on jerseys like crazy, and they were going to different people. And the team just happened to retain this one.
That's one of the reasons. And again, and that's actually a great lesson for a young collector was, and I found that for you and whatever, but that comes down to when you get your hands on something is that actually take the time to like go through it. And, I just decided that once it was in my hands, like we're going to look and see what was written on the darn thing, and see if there was something on the fight strap, because I had seen stuff from the Blues in that era that had that. And, we've seen some crazy stuff, if you saw that Gretzky jersey, and I'm going to harpen back to that, going on to the same topic, there was that Gretzky playoff jersey. And the funny part about that was on the like wash tag on the inside, there's like a drawing almost. And it's like a notation. And I wonder, like, that's probably been on there. That was probably some way that they marked that jersey, in then. And, these equipment guys are pretty smart, especially in those situations, to keep marking them
and do some of the hidden marks too. So
do your homework.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, we'll go back to Uncle Milt, do your homework,
And even Migrace put that in their, I think it's even on their site is how do you know this is an authentic game worn? And they talk about their tagging. They also talk about hidden or other ways that they know that's not public knowledge.
Yeah.
Is it there's something hidden in the fabric, whatever it is? Yeah, the equipment guys for the big names, they're going to mark some of those to know, okay, it's legit, it's this game or whatever.
That Erik Johnson to go along with that whole set, we were talking about it, just have numbers on a lot of the size tags. And
1, 2, or 3.
1, 2, or 3. I mean, there was a Korea that just recently went that was that. And I think there was another one. And so they're just marking them. It just says 3 on it. But, we haven't gotten our hands on those. But hopefully the people that are buying those maybe listen to your show. And maybe they're going to dig in there and find something on a fight strap that'll help them. I mean, we did it.
Yeah, I've gone through some of the ones that are actually on eBay that have those in them. I photo matched a few of them to the different games because you can see obvious marks in them. But that year, the Blues had no set stamps. Unclear why.
Yeah, I have a Springfield Thunderbird jersey from last year. It's a Joel Hofer game worn one, and he had ended up. A lot of those guys didn't switch jerseys that year, but he did. The one I have on the fight strap, on the material that surrounds the fight strap that kind of sews it in, there's some writing on that, like set whatever and initials from the equipment guy. I've touched a lot of those Springfield jerseys, and that was the only one I've seen that had that. And I think it was because maybe he had switched out jerseys and they were trying to keep track of stuff. So again, that's not something that normally if you grab a Springfield jersey, you'd look there, but do your homework and look around on these things. It's always fun to roll them inside out and look at the piling and then look at the wash tag. I mean,
Weird
Yeah.
stuff.
Every jersey I get, one of the things I do just to see how much wear or use, especially a lot of those, the Reebok ones were pretty famous for it, and the Adidas ones, they put that like tag on there, and then they put one inside the. A lot of them have, if you open up the fight strap, if it's never been opened up or never been used, there's a little tag in there, that little like paper.
Look like a sales tag.
Yeah, sales tag, like an old, and those are, and they're dated, and they tell you what year it was, a manufacturer date that they used, and they put them on that tag. And they also, and like I said, if you do your homework, open up those fight straps. If you've got a jersey that you're not sure if it was ever worn and somebody didn't know it, a lot of times you can find an unused, unwashed tag, like a little paper tag in there. So that's a great, again, those are the little tools that separate you from knowing what you're doing and not knowing what you're doing.
I don't know. I haven't touched any current Arizona ones, but the older Coyotes jerseys, you flip the inside out, and on the back inside of the logos, you'd see what the set was, date, a signature, and then most of them, I think, still had set stamps. So I don't know if those were added at the same time or if the stamps were added later, but they were sewn in.
It's like really scribbly too. I actually have it's like kind of like, so whoever was writing those wasn't doing it for posterity. They were just like slopping it in there.
Yeah, and maybe at that point that they sewed, again, I'm not an expert, and if any of the Arizona experts know if their sewn in set stamps are added before or after, let us know. Because again, this is all part of, even though we're just talking about it, it's all part of documentation. Is we going back even to Paul, you with the Sharks jerseys, and Wade, you and I with the Blues with the barcodes in there. That's good right now, but who's to say that that's maintained?
Yeah, for sure. We deal with that with everybody. There's been so many teams over the years that have switched. Yep. I mean, the Blues have had so many different systems over the years, and I'm sure the Sharks have too, and everybody else. God forbid if like the Migrate database ever went down. Like what I mean, think about that. I mean, if realistically, if that ever went down.
And honestly, what's kind of good with that is I think last time I checked it for an old jersey for somebody, is it sits on a separate site. It's out, at least it's out on the internet. So with the internet archives and stuff, you can probably pull that stuff back. But what was was it the company that Wings used to do, whatever they ran? Isn't it for years? That's all gone now, the tagging that they used to do?
Yeah, supposedly the database which connected the jersey to the numbers in the hem, that got lost when a laptop crashed. The only copy of the database supposedly was on a laptop, and all that data's been lost now. I mean, I will say the good thing about Migrate, though, it's all in a PDF file, everything. I know I have backups of all that. I think a lot of collectors have, downloaded that. I just find it easier to open up my own copy and look.
When I used to work, and there used to be a website when I used to work for JSA, there was a company that we had done business with that basically you could put a couple names in a thing and it would help you like figure out, like the combination names would tell you like a team, like for team signed baseballs. And the guy that like owned that website and that we like paid whatever died, and the website died with him, which was like a huge like hit to people that authenticated or worked on that kind of stuff, because like it was such an incredible resource, and it's like, how did somebody not buy that or like, save that? And then was it Sports Specialties? Was that the guy that did the authentication back in the 90s?
That sounds right.
Was it, and that one, and he was from St. Louis originally, and then did a lot of stuff with the Blackhawks. And like, I guess whenever he passed, that database, because you'll still find the letters and the tagging like heat pressed into some jerseys, but the database itself is gone. I mean, so that's kind of like one of those ones where you're like, man, wouldn't that be nice if that was still floating around for all that stuff that got tagged 25 years ago?
Well, yeah. Well, and Paul, you being in IT forever, me still in IT, what do we preach to everybody? Back up your stuff. Have multiple backups, especially now with the cloud. Throw stuff out online. I mean, like if even you as a collector, and I'm going to help Wade with this soon, is update like and track and document all the jerseys.
Get over here, man. I need
do it in
help.
An Excel sheet and that kind of stuff, and you take pictures of everything, and then you throw it up in Google, throw it in a whatever cloud service that you work with, so that it's somewhere else. If you're God forbid your computer crashes or something happens to your house where you need to do insurance claim stuff,
Yeah.
you've got that documentation ready and it's not lost.
Yeah, you got to get over here, man.
I'm hoping to do that here in the next handful of weeks.
We're-
It'll be a 3-month
you might
project.
be here. Tell your wife you might be here for a week.
Yeah. Why are you packing so long? You haven't seen as many jerseys he has. Going back to a little bit earlier discussion, I finally got it pulled up. It took me a little bit to find it. And Paul, you were right. It is handy bid for the Minnesota Wild reverse retro. And I just randomly pulled one up. This is Matt Boldy. And it talks about the certificate of authenticity. I don't like their wording here because it does. I guess maybe they're covering their butt, maybe not, but I just think their wording's a little off. It says certificate of authenticity comes from Minnesota Wild head coach manager Tony DaCosta that guarantees game use. I don't like that word guarantees. I mean, yes, we can go look at these and probably find pictures, but that word always makes me nervous. Because if you get it and it's happens to not show any, but it's worn in the game. Well, I don't know. It just maybe I'm being too picky here. But
Doc, could you put that in our little chat thing so I could get to it? I'd like to see it.
Just go to events handy bid. I'll actually pull it up on my phone because since I'm using.
Oh, okay, no big deal.
I'll try and can get it to you here in a minute. But jersey wear back, and this is the part, Paul, you were joking about here. Back, pulled thread at bottom of Adidas logo, pulled thread in edge of back number. This part gets better. Left sleeve, 2 large holes near wrist. Pulled thread in sleeve number. Right sleeve, repair in white stripe, repair just below right stripe. Pulled threads in sleeve numbers. I like the descriptions of where the holes in the repairs are. Pulled sleeves, come on. It's just events.handybid.com, and I think you can find the Wild.
I'm there. I found it.
But I do like the fact that they are putting those descriptions in because the way they've taken the pictures, it's a black background. So especially with those dark green sleeves, some of those repairs and stuff, you're not going to be able to see them well, especially if you're looking at it from a phone.
Yeah.
On a computer, like if I'm trying to zoom in and it's pretty, the pictures suck.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why part of the reason they're doing the descriptions, but like even, and I love the Blues. You and I have a good relationship with them. None of their jersey auctions anywhere ever have wear listed.
No.
I want to,
and they always hide the sleeves.
Right. How they hang them up when they take pictures, not purposefully, but just hang them up. It's like, come on. And we're helping or hoping to help educate them. We've got some irons in the fire to sort some of those things out. So we're hoping. But yeah, another one here. Jordan Greenway, back pulled thread on back, both back numbers. Left sleeve pulled thread on sleeve number 8. Right sleeved pop thread near wrists. Excuse me. That's the entire wear of the jersey.
Most of them are like that. The Boldy one was one with a repair. I think I only saw 1 or 2 others with repairs. I haven't looked at all of them, but it's
a sharp jersey though.
Yeah, Jumba marks below the trees within the crest. Very specific description. I do like that. So I applaud if anybody from the Minnesota Wild collectors or who have ties to the team, let them know that we're at least applauding their descriptions. But you know what? I will say this. I'd rather have more descriptions of wear than not enough. If you want to be that specific, I'm good with that. Then none and not the best pictures. It could affect. Again, everybody's picky. Sometimes you want the player, whatever, or just this design. It may affect what you're buying or what you're willing to spend. If you see a jersey that's just had the shit kicked out of it, you're likely to maybe spend more because you know there's a ton of matches. It has great use. And in the modern jerseys, we don't see that near as much. The one, was it the Vegas jersey from month or so ago that somebody had posted a picture of where the whole neck was all ripped off of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know that's going to show up somewhere,
You hope.
and sell for a good amount of money.
I have one that I recently got. It's a preseason jersey, Tyler Tucker Blues jersey, and the whole back is like torn apart and then repaired. I'll send you a picture of it at some point, but like that's one of those ones where like I don't know if I could ever find a picture of how that happened, but it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's those weird ones where if they caught the fabric just right and got in a fight and ripped it, or we talked about it during when we did your expos. We had the Chris Pronger jersey. It wasn't repaired, but the one that was cut off of him, it was two pieces down the middle. But we've seen, was it the Dallas player or somebody else that went to a similar thing, but they sewed it up and sold it.
Yeah,
it was a sewed top to bottom.
Yeah,
after it was cut off of him.
Yep.
Yeah, the Pronger one when his like heart stopped. That one that showed up at my expo, which was incredible. Like we all kept talking about how we couldn't figure out what the value on it was because, you know, is it worth more? Is it worth less? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a game worn jersey, kind of an oddity. I mean, like a little bit more, you know, just
a little bit morbid, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit morbid. Like it was kind of hard to determine, you know. I mean, there's a value to the story behind it, but then also there's a detraction from the it was just it's hard. It was hard. Not like we talked about. We couldn't figure out, you know, is it worth more? Is it worth less?
Yeah, it's again one of the semi no-nos for collectors. Some like it, some don't mind. It doesn't matter. Is wearing a jersey. You're never going to be able to wear that one because it's cut in half. It's got a hell of a story behind it. It has a happy ending because Pronger was revived and went on to have one hell of a career. But it's
Like what happened to the Jay Bouwmeester?
Yep, I'm assuming that's in the Blues archives almost on it.
Yeah, for sure.
Will it ever surface?
Yeah, who knows?
But some of those are the weird things, or when you see guys get taken off the ice to the hospital after a big hit, you know they're cutting them off too.
Yeah.
Are they just getting trashed at the hospital, or is somebody actually grabbing those and they're
back in a bag back to it's crazy to think about that kind of stuff, but
and again I don't ever want to see players hurt or see that happen, but it's crazy when those type of jerseys show up.
Yeah, for sure. It's an interesting hobby we all have.
Yes, we've touched on a lot of different things tonight, and so I got a lot of irons in the fire. I'm working on a couple guests coming up, trying to get some scheduled with them, some equipment guys. Paul, you and I need to touch base on one that we've been working on a little bit too. I know some of the teams are super busy because of playoffs and that thing, but hope to continue this into the summer some and as get interview wise, the podcast will go all year round, but may not as much once we get into the summer, not as frequent just because there won't be as much in the hobby, but we'll make sure that there's at least one every other week. We're just planning for things. Crap, we're already halfway through April. It's
going fast.
And we'll keep an eye out on the games. It's a lovely thing about high def TV is we can see when they zoom in close, see some of the marks on the jerseys live and happening.
Live matching.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Paul, got anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Not that I can think of. Not at this time.
Oh, go ahead, Paul.
No, I was saying nothing now. So
Wade, how about yourself?
Safe travels to Germany, Paul. Enjoy that trip.
At least you got a little while yet, but
yeah. It's coming up though.
Shows, I mean, our teams are all done.
Yeah.
We have plenty of time to be on these shows.
I guess at this point, let me ask that. Wade, go ahead and finish up, and I'll ask a question for you both.
No, I would love for Paul, and Paul's great about photos. I'd love to see a collection of like kind of what goes on and what's there at the show in Germany, NHL wise. Very, very intriguing to me.
It's surprising some of the stuff that makes it overseas. So I can't remember if I have photos of the last two shows there on Flickr or not.
I remember you posting some pictures previously. Just to me, it's fascinating. I mean, it kind of lets you know how global this stuff is that we do, and it's neat to know that there's guys over there that are so into it as well.
Oh, yes.
So the big question, not necessarily game worn related, but hockey related anyway, is okay. Now our teams are both out. Who are you guys hoping to watch go deep into the playoffs?
Paul, go ahead.
I would love to see the Wild do well. It's been, well, never.
Yeah.
My expectations, I still think Colorado's going to win it again.
Ooh, that's a big call.
Yes, it is. And Landeskog's not coming back.
Yep, I just saw that before we went on the air.
To jump in, I'm always a homer, and I've always been a big Ryan O'Reilly guy, and I know that he kind of got hurt and had some issues there in Toronto. Would love to see Toronto kind of break that first round curse a little bit, and for Ryan, I'd like to see him do well. Vladdy's there with the Rangers, which for me as a kid was a place that, having family from New York, I used to go to Rangers games at Madison Square Garden as a kid. So, interested in that. The Devils are interesting to me this year too, because they're so young and kind of like boisterous, and so it's just different. I like that. I just really hit on a bunch of Eastern Conference teams. As far as in the West, I agree. Minnesota is kind of interesting in the sense that, that they love hockey there so much, and they haven't really been going that direction for a little while. So it'll be neat to see what happens there. And then now Seattle snuck in, so that to me is interesting. See if Seattle can make a run at it too. So as a hockey fan, I'll just keep watching the games and enjoying the hockey. There always seems to be a story that catches my eye when our Blues leave, and just enjoy the hockey.
I'm actually excited to watch Edmonton, because with the points that Draisaitl and those guys have put up, it's insane. I was listening to the Blues radio game last night while mowing the grass, and I think between Draisaitl, three total guys, are almost 400 points between three people.
That's crazy.
I'm like, holy hell,
that's incredible.
So I'd like to see them do well.
Yeah, McDavid's head and shoulders above anybody in the NHL. And there's just like anybody that says otherwise is an idiot. Sorry. And that guy's just incredibly talented. So, you'd almost want to see that story get written at some point where he finds his way towards the cup, and in Edmonton, which is so storied with Wayne and, Messier and all those guys from the 80s, kind of would be a neat story to tell.
And some breaking, call it game worn related news. If this jersey is made available, it's going to go for an ass ton of money. Just in the last few minutes, through an NHL post, Luke Hughes went to New Jersey to playing with his brother Jack, scored his first NHL goal for the Devils in overtime, assisted by his brother.
Oh wow!
So I got jersey's made available. If they don't give that to Luke, holy shit, that's going to go for a lot of money.
Before we leave, I want to throw one topic that you just hit me with. Did you guys see that with Major League Baseball, they're doing a thing this year where when a player makes a Major League Baseball debut, they're wearing a jersey with a patch on it that says Major League Baseball debut on it. Will be interesting to see if, with the Fanatics connection in the next year or two, if suddenly we see NHL players when they make their debut getting that patch put on their jersey. And the reason Major League Baseball is doing it is and Fanatics has the deal with the baseball card companies. Those jerseys with that patch are then going to be taken out of circulation, and then they're going to be cut up and used for trading cards. So just to throw that out there before we leave, and it's a little bit of a big topic, but will be interesting to see.
We're going to mark that down, and I want to do at least part of a show or a full show on that, because I was not aware that that's happening. I will, just as a side note for that, a quick thing. I'm okay to a point with that because it's a one-game jersey. However, a lot of people who collect, and Paul, you're shaking your head a little bit, kind of worried. A lot of people want NHL first-game jerseys of their players.
So the question then becomes, well, in baseball, it's kind of funny too. If you've ever seen, like, those guys get issued 5-6 jerseys a game. So the question will be for me would be in the NHL suddenly if a guy makes a debut, is he wearing a jersey a period so that the player can have it, Fanatics can have one, and then the third one gets just
the team.
It's a whole show. It's a whole show, and I threw it out with no time left.
You know what? No, well, that's a good way to kind of maybe transition to one of the next ones we do. Paul, what are your thoughts on that?
I just want to talking to Stu. I know the Flyers, when a player comes up for his first game, they wear 2 jerseys, and I can't remember the breakdown, but they keep one of them, and the rest goes to Migrate to sell.
Uh-huh.
I know other teams. So I thought a lot of teams, they give players their first game jersey. It's a 1-game wonder and all that. And I just hate to see that go to the player there and be chopped up.
I agree.
And this is Luke's second game. So,
and see, that's weird because from the NHL that said his first one.
I thought he played Tuesday. I could be wrong.
I'm sorry. I misread that. That's my fault. First NHL goal, excuse me. His first second game, so first NHL goal, and gets the overtime winner. So really way to cap
earlier in the game. But yes, so for the first game, ideally he'd keep one of the jerseys from it. Yeah. And Devils are still with Migrate, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So if it's done the same for their program teams, he'd have one worn 2 periods. One for 1 period would be released, and that should be the one worn tonight if they were both at the same location.
Beyond that, again, like let's get into it a little deeper, but you're also going to throw in, they're putting a patch on them, which I think is cool. Like it's a little patch. It says like MLB debut or whatever. So we'll see if the NHL goes that route, and we'll talk about it on our next visit on the Dirty Laundry podcast.
Great way to wrap that up, gentlemen. Thank you for another fantastic show, and we will see you very soon.
Bye, guys.